Hello, my name is Olivia. My life has changed completely in the last few months. It took a major tragedy for things to start going well for me. I didn't think my story was interesting, but my friend Julie encouraged me to share it, so here I am. Let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm 18 years old. My family includes my mom and my stepdad, Stephen. My mom married Stephen when I was 10, and he has been like a dad to me ever since. Before him, my mom raised me on her own. You see, my mom was always the troublemaker in her family. She was the baby of the family, and they always let her get away with things. That lasted until she turned 19. They asked her to move out several times, but she wouldn't, so they let her stay if she agreed to pay rent, which she never did because she couldn't keep a job. She also dropped out of college, which really upset my grandparents, but they still didn't kick her out because she was their daughter. The last straw for them was when my mom got pregnant by a man she barely knew. It was supposed to be just a brief thing, but she ended up pregnant and the guy disappeared. Tired of her irresponsibility and constant problems, my grandparents finally kicked her out. She ended up in a shelter for women, where she gave birth to me and took care of me during my early years. I know all this because, as I grew up, my mom would often tell me how unfair my grandparents were, thinking I wouldn't remember. But obviously, I do. I did because they had some impact on me. Anyway, Mom met my stepdad, Stephen, at the diner where she was working. They hit it off right away and dated for 3 years. Eventually, Mom and I moved in with him. Stephen, who I called Dad, and I got very close. He was my favorite person. One thing about Dad was that he was rich, so he spoiled me a lot. Besides the material gifts, he also gave me a lot of love and attention. He made sure I had a happy childhood and always knew I was loved, something my mom didn't really do. When I was 16, Dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The doctors found it just in time to start treatments, so Dad spent a lot of the next 3 years getting chemotherapy and radiation. But his cancer only got worse. My world was falling apart, and whenever I tried to talk to Mom about it, she would just brush me off and leave me alone. I thought it was her way of dealing with her grief, but I know better now. Eventually, we were told Dad had less than 3 weeks to live. I stayed at the hospital with him most of the time. Mom was hardly there. I didn't mind though. Whenever Dad was awake, he'd tell me he loved me. One day, with Mom in the room, Dad told her he loved her too. Then he told me the same thing and passed away. I was beyond devastated. I couldn't breathe. I didn't let anyone in for the next few days because I wanted to be alone. We had a small funeral for Dad because he asked for it to be that way. After his funeral, I stayed in my room for 3 days. When I finally came out, I saw balloons and streamers in the living room, and my mom was decorating. "What are you doing?" I asked. "What do you think I'm doing?" "Why are there balloons and streamers everywhere? Are you throwing a party?" "Today is a happy day," she said. "What are you talking about? Are you seriously throwing a party just 3 days after Dad died?" "Oh please, he wasn't your real dad. You don't have to be so sentimental about it." "What are you talking about? Of course, he was my real dad. He was the only father figure I had in my life." "Oh, save me the sob story." "It's not a sob story. Are you really not sad that Dad passed away?" "God, no. I only married him because I needed the money," Mom said. "You can't be serious." "I am. If you had stopped idolizing him, you would have seen that I never loved him." "But he loved you." "Oh, he was so boring. The only interesting thing about him was his money, and now it's all mine." "You are a cruel woman." "No, I'm not the cruel one. Your stupid stepdad was cruel. Do you know how many times I wanted to send you away to a school on another continent?" "What? Why?" "The only reason I kept you here was because Stephen threatened to divorce me. If he did, all my years of trying to get his money would have been wasted." "Why did you want to send me away? What did I ever do to you?" "You ruined my life. I have no family because I had to give birth to you. I had to struggle on the streets because I had an extra mouth to feed. How is that my fault? I don't care. This party is happening for two reasons. Your father finally passed away and left me the money, and you are leaving this house. What? I'm not going anywhere. Oh yes, you are. I'm giving you 3 hours to pack and move out. My friends will be here by then. Get moving. I tried to say something, but I couldn't. I just went back to my room and sat on my bed, staring at the wall. I didn't know if Mom was serious about kicking me out or not. She was. She walked by my room and told me I was wasting time by not packing. After she left, I broke down. I didn't know what to do or where to go. I started to panic and called my best friend, Julie. Hey Sharon, what's up? I need your help. What's going on? Is everything all right? No, I need you to come over and help me pack my things. Pack your things? What are you talking about? My dad passed away. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for your loss. Are you holding up okay? Not really. I'm a mess, but I have to get out of here. You have to what? Shouldn't you be with your mom? That's the thing. Mom's throwing a party for all her friends. A party? Why is your mom throwing a party just a few days after your dad passed? I asked her the same thing. She said she only married Dad for his money. She also wanted me out of her life, but couldn't because Dad stopped her. My God, no offense, but your mom is horrible. I see why you want to leave. I don't want to leave, but Mom asked me to leave in the next 3 hours. What? How could she ask you to leave your own house? I don't know, and I don't want to find out what will happen if I stay. Sharon, I don't want you to stay there either. I'm coming over, and we'll pack your things together. Thank you. I just need to figure out where to go. You're coming to my place, silly. My mom loves you. She'd be happy to help you. I don't want to impose. You'll never impose on us. We'll figure out the details after you get here, okay? Okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Thank you so much, Julie. Of course, what are friends for? Julie came over in 20 minutes, as she said. Mom had gone out, so I was glad she wasn't there because she didn't like Julie. We didn't talk much. Julie just helped me pack all my things quietly. I was grateful because I wasn't in the mood to talk. I felt raw and numb inside, my head full of thoughts, and my heart a mess of emotions. In a few days, I had lost both my dad and my mom. One loss was more devastating than the other, but it still hurt that my only remaining parent didn't want me anymore. Julie and I loaded up her car with all my things and drove to her place quietly. We were greeted at the door by Julie's mother, who always treated me like family. She always treated me like her own child. She always had room for me in her home. She was a single mother too, so she understood what I was going through, even though I had a stepdad. Julie and her mom were like my extended family, so I gratefully accepted the long, tight hug from Julie's mom when she saw me. She told me to make myself comfortable because her home was mine too. She promised to be there for me no matter what, and those words meant a lot to me. It felt good knowing that even if my real mother never cared for me, there was someone who would look after me and give me the motherly love and care I needed. Julie's mom led us to the guest bedroom where I would be staying. As soon as I started unpacking, I broke down and sobbed. I sat on the bed and cried for a long time. Julie held me and stroked my back until I eventually calmed down. After about 20 minutes, she asked, "Do you feel any better?" Kind of. Thank you so much for helping me, Julie. I really don't know what I would have done without you. That's the best part, you'd never be without me. We've known each other almost our entire lives. You're my sister at this point. That's true. I owe you big time, though. Nonsense. But if there's one way you could repay me, it's by promising you'll find a way to get back at your mom, now or sometime in the future. You have to do it. I promise. I'm so angry with her. I can't believe she's such a horrible person. Me neither. I knew she didn't like me, and I didn't like her much either, but I never expected her to stoop so low. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. What do you mean? I mean, there was no reason for her to be so distant about my life. Dad knew more about what was happening with me than she did. Clearly, she just didn't want me around. I thought she was distant because of what she had gone through, but now I see it was more than that. I don't mean to intrude or make you feel unwelcome, but do you have any other family you could reach out to about your mom? I know your mom's side isn't helpful, but what about Stephen's side? I actually don't know anyone on his side of the family. How come? Does he not have family? He does, but apparently his family cut him off. Why? He was the nicest man on the planet. Why would they cut him off? They didn't like my mother. I can see why. They always thought she was only with him for his money, and they never hid that from him. My dad was naive and didn't want to believe it, and my mom made sure he stopped talking to them. Did your mom tell you all this? No, I'm just piecing it together now that I see what my mom is really like. They told me things in a gentle way because I was a child, but now it all makes sense. But even if Stephen cut off contact with his family, they shouldn't have stopped trying to talk to him. Dad told me they didn't stop. They kept trying, but Mom would get angry whenever she found out. The final straw was when they found out Dad had married her. They didn't want anything to do with him after that. That's harsh. Yeah, I agree. Do you think you could reach out to his family? Maybe they'd want to know what your mom's doing. I don't know anything about them, so I don't know where to start. Plus, what do you say to someone who was right about my mom being a gold digger? I don't think they'd want to help me, especially since I'm her daughter and not related to them. Yeah, you're right. We'll figure this out. For now, you're welcome to stay with us as long as you like. Mi casa es su casa. Thanks a lot. Maybe we can look at this as our longest sleepover ever. I love that idea. Talking to Julie made me feel a lot lighter. The heartbreak and hurt were still there, but it felt easier to handle because I had someone to share my feelings with. Julie told her mom about our sleepover, and her mom took it seriously. She took us to the store and bought all the food we wanted so we could watch movies and binge away our sadness. Julie's mom even let us take the next day off so we could stay up all night and talk. She knew how much talking would help me deal with things and was as supportive as she could be. I was so grateful for her. She is an amazing woman. Julie and I talked a lot about my dad, his family, my mom, and her behavior. We came up with some crazy plans for revenge on my mom. Even though the plans were far-fetched, we had fun just making them. I started to feel better on the second day of my stay with Julie and her mom. But that changed when my mom called me after school. I thought about not answering, but I finally did. What do you want? I asked. I took out all my things. Olivia, are you safe? Why are you suddenly showing care? What are you talking about? I'm your mother. I care for you. That's not what you said before you kicked me out and threw a party to celebrate Dad's death. How can you say such horrible things about your mother right after I suffered such a terrible loss? What are you even talking about? Are you crying? Of course, I'm crying. I just lost my husband, and my daughter ran away from home. Are you being threatened? Why are you lying? Is someone there with you? Your grandma is here to see you. My grandma? Yes, your stepdad's mother. She wants to meet you. You need to come here immediately. I don't see why I need to rush. Why don't you entertain her for a while? Clearly, you're acting in front of her and trying to prove something. Don't be smart with me. Come home right now. I'm a little busy right now, but I'll be there in an hour. If you don't come here in the next 20 minutes, I'll call the police and have them escort you back home. I know you're staying with that no-good friend of yours. Julie is a great friend to me, and even if she wasn't, she's still a million times better than you. Please don't be so difficult. Your grandmother is waiting for you. Just come home, sweetie. For how my grandmother is making you scared, I just might come home right away. She's getting impatient, so you need to hurry up. Fine, I'll be there soon. I was really curious about what Dad's mom was like. She must have some influence or at least be intimidating because my mom was being nicer than ever. I told Julie about my dad's mom visiting, and she was shocked too. Julie offered to drop me off because she had a car, and I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts on the walk to my house. During the short drive, Julie and I talked about how weird it was that Dad's family showed up just 4 days after we talked about contacting them. We joked that the universe must have sent Dad's mom a message to visit me and help. While it was nice to joke, I was still very nervous to meet my grandmother. When we got to my house, Julie wished me luck. I entered the house and saw my mom sitting with an older lady who was my grandmother. She looked kinder than I expected and a lot like Dad, which broke my heart and comforted me at the same time. My mom came over to give me a hug. "Oh, there's my angel. Rachel, this is my daughter, Olivia." "Hello, my God, Stephen was right. You are a pretty girl." "Thanks." Dad always said that even when I looked awful, he told me I was a pretty girl. "Well, she can thank her mother for those looks," Mom said. "But I think her gratitude towards you should end there." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I know all about what you've been doing, Heather." "What are you talking about?" "Before I tell you about that, I want to extend my condolences to you, Olivia. I'm sorry I never got to meet you before, but I know my son loves you very much. I'm sorry it took me so long to come here, but I had some things to take care of. You have nothing to be sorry for. Dad always spoke so nicely of you and said you were an inspiration to him. I know you're hurting too, so there's no need to apologize. I wish more than anything that I hadn't cut off contact with my son for so long. I'm just grateful he reached out to his family before he passed." "What do you mean?" I asked. "He had us help him write his will, and he's left everything to you, Olivia, including his house. However, you'll only get it when you turn 18. Until then, I'll be in charge of your inheritance." "What? What do you mean? Why am I not in charge of her inheritance?" Mom demanded. "Because he did not trust you." "How could he not trust me? I was his wife." "Are you really asking me that, Heather?" "Yes, I want to know. Why did he leave me nothing and give everything to my daughter?" "First of all, I will not tolerate you calling your daughter stupid in front of me. Secondly, Stephen found out about your affairs and your stealing." "Affairs? Stealing? What are you talking about?" I asked, confused. "Mom, what is she saying?" "I have no idea, sweetie," Mom replied. "Don't lie, Heather. Stephen noticed a long time ago that a lot of his money was disappearing. He found a stash in your cupboard, but much more was missing. So he put an app on your phone to track what you were doing. That's when he discovered you were cheating on him with multiple men and using his money to pay for hotels and dates." "Mom, how could you?" "I've been arranging to have your mother arrested these past few days, and the police should be here soon," Grandma said. "I can't get arrested, please. I'm sorry," Mom begged. "You made my son's life miserable. He only stayed because he knew you wouldn't treat Olivia well without him. He loved her like his own daughter. He told me to make sure you paid for what you did to him and what he knew you would do to Olivia after he was gone." "As his mother, I'm making sure it happens," Anna said firmly. Just then, the police arrived and parked in front of our house. They walked up to us, and Anna, who insisted I call her Anna, greeted them and pointed out my mom. They took her to the station, and Mom was sobbing, trying to negotiate with Anna, but Anna wasn't having any of it. I was still in shock from everything I had just found out. Anna took me inside and let me process everything. I couldn't believe my mom had the audacity to cheat on my wonderful dad. Even though I was young, I always noticed how much he did for her. He always went above and beyond to make her happy, right up until his last breath. Even his final words to her were, "I love you." The nerve of my mom to cheat on him. Anna also told me that Mom continued to cheat on Dad while he was in the hospital getting treatment. I already knew my mom was a terrible person, but every time I thought she couldn't get worse, she proved me wrong. I sat and sobbed for a long time after Mom was taken away. Anna held me and even cried a little, apologizing over and over for taking so long to get to me, and for letting me be homeless for the last 2 days. I told her all about my friend Julie, and Anna promised we'd go over later to thank them personally. Once I calmed down, Anna took me to meet Julie again, and I told her everything I had found out. She was just as shocked and disgusted as I was. She did cry tears of happiness for me, though, because I was finally going to have a family to rely on, and that my mom got what she deserved. After that, things started to look up for me. Anna asked if I wanted to move back to where she lived, or if I wanted to continue living in my home. I wanted to stay in my home because that's where all my memories of Dad were. Anna understood and arranged for the family nanny to live with me as a guardian. Anna couldn't stay because she had to work with Grandpa, but they had enough money to provide a nanny, so I was well taken care of. The nanny and I quickly became good friends. Anna took care of the legal stuff for Mom's trial. She hired the best lawyer to represent her. Dad had compiled all the evidence of Mom's affair and theft and sent it to Anna. The trial didn't last long because there was so much evidence against Mom. In the end, Mom was found guilty of theft, had to repay everything she stole, pay a fine, and was sentenced to 3 months in jail. According to Anna, Mom was a mess during the trial. After getting her sentence, she broke down, sobbing and yelling profanities at Anna and Dad, blaming them for ruining her life. That only made me angrier, and I was happy Mom was finally facing the consequences of her actions. I wanted to know more about Dad after that, and Anna was ready to answer all my questions. The first question I asked was why she hadn't talked to Dad for so long. Anna confirmed what I suspected. Mom got Dad to stop talking to them. They tried for months to get him to see reason, but eventually they cut him off, hoping Mom would leave him if the money stopped. But Dad had already become successful on his own. Dad only got back in touch with Anna and Grandpa when he was diagnosed with cancer. They didn't rehash the past at first, only when Dad began to suspect Mom. He confided in them, and they helped him catch her. He was very discreet, and his main concern was me. He wanted to make sure I wouldn't suffer for Mom's actions. Anna and Grandpa learned a lot about me then and wanted to meet me, but Dad didn't want that to happen in case Mom found out about his plans. I cried a lot when Anna told me everything. It felt great to know just how much Dad loved me. Now my mission is to live a life he would be proud of. I may have lost my mom and dad, but I gained a new family, and I couldn't be more grateful.